So I'm really thrilled to be joined by Patrick, who's the executive director of the White House Crypto Council. He's the one who's actually doing the hard work of supporting our industry day to day, moving things forward, working with the senators, congressmen, getting the ducks in a row. It's actually the White House Crypto Council and that office that we have to thank for the stablecoin legislation moving forward. They did a ton of work getting that to happen for our industry. And I've seen them really put forward a huge amount of effort in favor of our industry and its progress. So really thrilled to have him here. Thank you, Patrick, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
So I think it'd be interesting for people to hear your views on why you think our industry is important for America, how it will kind of benefit America. Why do you think that the current administration has taken such a positive view of our industry?
Well, I think if I step back and not just look at blockchain and the crypto industry overall, but really just look at it as it's a tool of innovation, right? There are so many different revolutions happening across different industries, whether that's biotech with these different molecules that they're developing, whether it's AI and the amazing things that we're seeing come out of that. Blockchain and crypto in particular is another one of these that we view it as the president's a business guy. We're proud Americans. We want to make sure that the United States is continuing to be an engine for innovation on the global stage. And thank you. What allows America to have its hegemonic position on the world stage? Well, obviously the military is a big part of it, but the other second part of it is our leadership in the financial space, our deep liquid capital markets, and the leadership that we provide to others to kind of draft off of the advances that we're making. So we view it in that way. We want to make sure that everything that we're doing, we filter it through the lens of, is this going to drive innovation offshore, or is it going to bring it back here onshore? We're trying to dig ourselves out of the hole that Gary Gensler and Senator Elizabeth Warren and others put America in. We think there's still an opportunity to catch up and reestablish American dominance in this area, but we need to act, and that's why the Genius Act first, the market structure legislation that we're trying to get across the finish line now, and then all of the interagency actions to follow on from that, the rule makings and pulling back the erroneous guidance from let's call them misled or misguided, previous policymakers. So every day there's a new adventure. There's a lot to do, and I'm incredibly grateful to be in this role to help shape it.
Yes, and thank you again for all the hard work you and your team do. It's a great role. I'm thrilled this role exists in the White House and the Trump administration. So I'm getting the sense that you're feeling that it's not just about cryptocurrency. It's also about the financial system. And you see this technology as contributing to the U.S.'s role in the financial system. That's one of the things I picked up. The market structure bill that you mentioned, I think, is kind of a key piece of legislation that I know you're spending a lot of time on, and is kind of in the final stages of hopefully getting to where it needs to get to. What do you think will happen with the market? Excuse me. With the market structure bill in the near term, what do you think are the next steps for the market structure bill to move forward from here?
Yeah, it's definitely dominating my time. I've pretty much established residence on Capitol Hill and some of these different senators' offices on Senate Banking and Senate Ag. But, where we are right now is, the House passed the Clarity Act, and now it's come over to the Senate, and they're going to take their own chop on it. The two committees, are working through their different sections of the bill, the SEC side on the banking side, CFTC titles on the Ag side. Within the past 3 weeks, I would say we've really seen some demonstrable progress from both sides, people asking the right questions. As we get closer to a deadline, it kind of sharpens the focus, and some of those folks that were maybe quiet or neutral on the bill are now really engaging and digging in. We're going to get there. We're driving it forward. We're continuing to make sure that we're applying that pressure. The president just the other day on 60 Minutes, talked again about his promise to make the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. David reiterates that point all the time in the conversations that he has with senators, and I do my best to reinforce it. So I'm very encouraged by the progress that we're making. I think we're going to get it done. From there, as with Genius, once you get a bill passed, that's kind of the starting, gun, and then you have to work through the interagency to make sure that the follow-on rules that are drafted based on that legislation maintain, the consistency with the intent of the bill in the first place. That's really where a lot of the work begins, because a lot of the legislation is just directing rulemakings over at the agencies to address particular problems, and that takes a long time. And there's a lot of nuance that Congress is kind of punting over to the agency to get right. So we'll have our hands full for many years ahead.
Yeah, well, once again, I think you all can see what I mean. There's clearly a very strong commitment to move this critical piece of legislation forward, from the White House through actual activity and not just making it someone else's problem. And that sense of ownership is something that I've experienced in my conversations with folks from the White House, and it's always been really impressive to me. So once again, thank you for all the time and effort it takes to move that forward. Thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you. I would just say on that point, a lot of folks, come into our office, meet with us. We've had the pleasure of spending, various meetings together, talking about different issues. And when they thank us, they're really thanking President Trump.
Absolutely.
They're thanking David Sachs. They're thanking all of those, senators that voted yes, that worked through the bill on Genius, and that are now working through the issues on market structure. So on behalf of them, you're welcome. But then also, our job in this is to establish the rules of the road, to allow the innovators, to allow the builders out there to build their products, to develop new technologies and new applications of blockchain technology across the board. So we are here to do our part to allow you to do the great work that you're doing. So it's really a salute to industry and the amazing work that y'all have put into this industry to drive it forward.
Great. Thank you to Trump and Sachs and everyone involved. Absolutely. So what are your views on stablecoins and how that technology has been positive for U.S. dollar dominance, and how you hope it'll impact U.S. dollar dominance from here?
I think talk to pretty much anybody nowadays, and what's the kind of watchword, and the things that's on the tip of everyone's, tongues in the traditional finance space and with central bankers the world over, it's U.S.-backed stablecoins, U.S. dollar-backed stablecoins. So I think they're going to proliferate around the globe, even more so than they already have. We're having conversations all the time with my counterparts, in different countries, understanding how it's going to affect their economies and how to establish regulatory frameworks that are consistent and reciprocal with the regime that we've established. I'm very bullish on their growth. I think they're going to provide that base layer of interoperability and liquidity to allow other financial products to be built on top of different chains, and just provide products to folks that, number one, don't have access to the US dollar. That's one, but then also don't have access to other products that they can now get access to basically a synthetic US dollar, a US dollar-backed stablecoin, and potentially lend it and get yield from it. And I'm incredibly excited about what the industry is going to do, and I think it's going to continue to supercharge in the years ahead.
Yeah, it's been always really interesting to me how in many emerging markets where the local currency hasn't done well, stablecoins, US dollar stablecoins, have emerged as their own form of, wages, payment, and I think it's one of the things that's really one of the best use cases of crypto. And I know the creators of stablecoins like Tether and Circle really love to see these emerging markets adopt their US dollar stablecoins as a way to sidestep a broken domestic financial system. So I definitely think that emerging markets have already, even in a very anti-crypto, anti-stablecoin, which is just a crazy environment. Like, why wouldn't you want something as the US government that perpetuates access to the US dollar, God knows why, these people were doing this before the Trump administration, but even at that time, even in that, kind of hostile environment, you had a huge amount of adoption of US dollar stablecoins. Yeah. Now, with this legislation and with this kind of, newfound support from the US government, I think that's going to just massively accelerate stablecoin adoption. And I think it'll be, good for the US dollar. I think it'll be very good for our industry. And, it's very interesting to me also because there's all these countries that own the US dollar, but when the US dollar is owned by stablecoins as a group, it's actually millions or billions of people owning US treasuries by extension. Yeah. Right? So it's actually, interestingly enough, just another pathway for the US Treasury market, which we know, is a critical market, or let's say the critical market for the US government. So from your point of view, in addition to stablecoins, how do you see blockchain technology being implemented to benefit the financial system and the US economy? So how do you see it, impacting, beyond stablecoins, the economy and the financial system?
I think, in particular, like the work that you do with Chainlink, that fusion between traditional finance and the crypto industry is only going to accelerate. You've seen a number of acquisitions in this space, with MasterCard, and banks are getting into it too. Because you can either develop it homegrown or you can try and buy your way in, and I think we're going to see a lot more folks do the latter. The future, there's not going to be a difference between traditional finance and the crypto industry. It's going to become one thing. I think about, I don't have kids yet, but my brother has 2 daughters and 2 sons, so I'm an uncle 4 times over. And for them, the thought of a world before crypto is going to seem strange to them in the same way that they look at me with 3 heads when I talk about landlines or dial-up internet. That's where we're headed, and folks like you, the work that you're doing to integrate traditional finance into that future economic system is so pivotal. There's going to be all sorts of different innovations in that space, and I really do think as the old guard kind of moves out, definitely there's a generational divide here. Obviously, the younger folks, right, left, TradFi, crypto, I think are all going to come together and really rally around the future of financial innovation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. There's already interesting statistics on how millennials save their money versus previous generations. So like, for example, equity and bonds were a much more commonly held thing in previous generations, but millennials seem to value alternative investments, including crypto. So alternative investments like real estate investments and others. And I think that's because millennials grew up in a time where there was the 2008 financial crisis. And so, they don't necessarily believe in the traditional big blue chip stuff. They believe in these alternative things as, in a way, even being less risky. And I think what'll happen to your point is that there's a generational shift. And as a lot of new types of assets get tokenized and made available to millennials, which are now going to be the big spending generation with more capital than others for a time, I think there will be, to your point, a newfound kind of interest in not only cryptocurrencies, but tokenized things.
Yeah. I think one other thing I would add to that too is they grew up in a world in which you had basically 0 or near 0 interest rates, and so savings and yield on their assets just was non-existent, and so they're chasing different ways to capture some of that upside and build for the future. So I think all of those things come together in such a way that is very, very bullish and provides a lot of tailwinds for this industry and the innovation that's yet to come.
Yep. Yield on tokenized real estate, yield on tokenized gold, yield on a whole bunch of stuff is something that I think will be very attractive when it can finally get done on chain the right way. So absolutely, completely agree. Yeah. There is this distinction between cryptocurrency and digital assets. I wanted to know how you viewed that and which of those 2 categories you saw as having the largest impact on the US economy.
Yeah, I think this was something I talked about earlier, how, crypto is not a monolith. Blockchain technology is not a monolith. And so a lot of the infrastructure that Chainlink and others are building in this space is pivotal to taking, real world assets, securities, you name it, and tokenizing them and bringing them on chain in a way that's, different than a Bitcoin or, other crypto assets that are out there. So I think they're both, instrumental in the growth of the industry. I do think, that fusion of traditional finance and building the infrastructure to allow, traditional products that exist, but then also new products that are enabled by the blockchain technology to come together. I don't want to pick a favorite there, but I think the two are definitely complementary and will continue to proliferate and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think that the cryptocurrency trend and Bitcoin as a safe haven asset will continue to pump a lot of capital into our industry. And then that capital will reach a lot of teams building, exciting, innovative stuff. And generally speaking, I think that's kind of one of the most, amazing things about the modern, capitalist system is that you have all this capital, it goes to people that can build things, some of them succeed, some of them fail. But at the end of the day, you get a few amazing things. Mm-hmm. And I do think that the cryptocurrency trend has brought a lot of capital, in addition to the capital that's flowed into Bitcoin, that's flowed into systems that generate really valuable outcomes. I think Chainlink is one of those systems. There are other systems like Ethereum and others that have generated, I think, a lot of value because the cryptocurrency trend has existed. And then it gave birth to DeFi. So, even if it is based on, Bitcoin or whatever other speculative activity people might have, it fundamentally has created a lot of really innovative stuff. So I generally view it as a huge positive. And now what I think is going to happen is that actually thanks to the Trump administration and thanks to the very strong, position of President Trump and the chairman folks that he's kind of chosen for the SEC and that he's going to help choose for the CFTC, and your and his and everyone's involvement in the legislative process, I think all of that innovation that was basically financed in various ways by the cryptocurrency side of our industry can now, a lot of it can be repurposed for the financial system. Yeah. And so it can be implemented not just for cryptocurrency, but it can be implemented for a new version of the financial system, which as we've talked before and I've mentioned many times in DC, I think is fundamentally a good thing for society, right? Because this new version of the financial system reduces risk, creates transparency, has many, many benefits that the current system doesn't have. And I think from my interactions with the largest institutions in the current system is that they want to be part of whatever the new system is. So while there might have been some resistance initially, and I think the initial resistance was really a result of the extreme negativity of the previous administration, because the banks, especially the big banks, are very sensitive to what the regulator thinks. Whatever the regulator thinks is what they think, basically. And I don't even think that there was any real animosity from banks towards our industry. I think that animosity was driven by regulators that signal to the banks that they need to have animosity and they need to, create issues for our industry and debank people in our industry. And that's the right thing to do. And so I think we're at this critical time now where there's been all this influx of capital and smart people to build this next level infrastructure and this next level cryptographically guaranteed set of systems like chains and smart contracts and Oracle networks. And now we're in a world where institutions, as you can tell from this conference and everything that's happened here over the last 2 days, and all the announcements we've had and all this work we've done with the largest institutions before this conference, is you have kind of a perfect storm where all that great innovation can get implemented for the financial system, right? But none of that is possible without the support of the Trump administration, Patrick, and all these folks moving this forward for us.
I would say too, for folks in this room, it's a privilege to represent the White House here in the administration, but we have a great leader in President Trump who, just reiterated the other night on 60 Minutes, our commitment to making this the crypto capital of the world. It's David's leadership. You will not have a bigger advocate in the White House than President Trump and David Sachs for this industry. Every day we are, waking up early and working until late on figuring out the ways that we can remove the regulatory impediments to allow this industry to flourish and to really build here at home. So I consider it a tremendous privilege to be part of that effort. And it's also at the SEC with Chairman Atkins, CFTC with soon-to-be Chairman Mike Seelig, the regulatory harmonization that needs to take place over at the Comptroller Gold. It's a team effort, and President Trump has assembled a group of folks who are forward-thinking. They understand that this is the future, and they're doing everything that we can to ensure that America continues to set the example and allow innovators to build their products here at home and really allow this industry to flourish. So yeah, we're working with you to do everything that we can to allow you to do what you're doing in the space.
Yes, that's fantastic. Thank you again. So what can the crypto community do to make this easier, for you and other people in DC? How can the crypto community help gain more positive favor from the legislative, the executive, whatever other groups that are necessary in DC? What would you want to see from the crypto community, and what would you want to see them do?
I think the main thing that I would say is there's a number of well-meaning, well-intended folks, especially on Capitol Hill, but then also throughout the agencies, that want to understand this at a level that then allows them to explain it to somebody else or advocate for a particular policy position. And this is complicated, right? I mean, there's a reason why there are such brilliant folks working on this, because it requires a lot of brain horsepower to build the kind of products and to develop these technologies. And sometimes there's a bit of lost in translation element to it, where some of the folks, especially those that are advanced in age, in different agencies or on Capitol Hill, that are just struggling to understand it. So really meet them where they are, try and explain the concepts at a level that they can understand, that especially, builds off of what they know from the existing traditional finance space. And I think you're gonna find that a lot of people, if they express reservations or appear to oppose the technology, it really comes from a place of misunderstanding or a lack of education. So be patient with them, continue to engage with them, because there are a lot of folks that want to get to the right place and want America to enable this technology and not stand in its way, but they need to get comfortable with the implications and the consequences for the decisions that they're making or the policy positions that they take.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I found. So we have a head of public policy, Adam, who's doing a great job.
Adam's great.
Yeah, he's a great guy, doing a great job for us and our industry. We have a team, working with him, lobbyists. We're spending, significant time and resources. I'm spending a lot of time in DC, meeting with Democrats and Republicans exactly for this goal of educating them, because that's actually the point. That's actually the time when I've seen that it's worthwhile to educate people about our industry. Like, if someone understands and they're still not interested, then it's not worth your time, right? They understood, they're not into what you have, it's time to move on. But what I find consistently is what you've described, is that there has been this period where blockchains are bad for money laundering, when actually they reduce money laundering, or Bitcoin is used for drugs, or all this weird bad stuff that was perpetuated. And so there's not enough people that have gained a full understanding of the benefits of DeFi, or what DeFi is or DeFi isn't, or why blockchains will benefit the financial system, or why the largest US institutions are implementing this technology. And so I completely agree with you. And it's fascinating for me to see how dispelling these ideas, for whoever it might be, it's not, the good news is it's not the regulators. Mm-hmm. So the regulators have become so educated at this point, and we've also been talking to them a lot, that it's not the regulators. So it's not the immediate people who could create real problems. So that's huge. But you know, there's still, to your point, a lot of education, congressmen, senators, all this stuff. And you know, we plan to continue spending significant resources, being in DC, helping with this, because I see it as worthwhile, because once I haven't met a senator and a congressman so far that I've had successful meetings with, or not successful, but clear meetings with, where they understand, oh, that's what DeFi is. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what blockchains do. And they always get on board.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, if with your help and with the help of other great, you know, crypto companies in our industry, we can dispel these misunderstandings, we can be in a whole different world.
We're going to get there, and I think you've seen a number of different legislators get elected in recent cycles that get elected on a pro-crypto platform. So you don't necessarily have to, you know, educate them and get them on board. They're already there once they get in office, and they become champions who earn the respect of their colleagues, and then those colleagues, you know, even if they don't necessarily understand it fully to the same level, they at least trust that, you know, Senator Haggerty, for example, you know, understands this, and he's telling me that this is a good bill that I should support, and others in the House too. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but that contingent, you know, in the House and the Senate, and also on the Democrat side, it's not just the Republicans. On the Democrat side, there are a number of elected officials in recent cycles that have been elected on a pro-crypto platform, and they bring others along with them. So the future's bright. You know, we're still working through it. A lot of work to be done now, but I'm very encouraged and very bullish on the industry overall, and the work that you're doing and other projects out there building this financial infrastructure of the future. I'm very grateful to be a part of it.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, to your point, one of the things that I've also noticed that had a huge change was the massive amount of money that got donated to elect and help elect, you know, various representatives. So that's always a good idea. So from my point of view, not Patrick's, I guess, but from my point of view, you know, if you want to, you know, help the crypto industry, go donate to the things that are going to help get pro-crypto congressmen and senators elected. And if you have a vote in one of these districts or places, vote for the pro-crypto candidate. That simple reality of like, wow, these crypto people can get seats in Congress. These crypto people can help get seats in Congress. In the Senate. These crypto people can influence enough of my constituents that it's an important factor for how the vote goes in my re-election or my election to have a seat in the legislative body. You know, that's very powerful. So that's the other thing that I noticed. I noticed it kind of at the beginning of the year, at the inauguration, the inaugural ball, when Fairshake and a number of other groups did such a great job getting so many seats for pro-crypto candidates. But you know, that's how U.S. representative democracy works. So, you know, I would just keep that also in mind. I'm definitely keeping it in mind, and I would pay attention to how you can, you know, support the candidates that are pro-crypto. And to your point, there are absolutely pro-crypto candidates on both sides. You know, Chairman Scott of the Senate Banking and Finance Committee is doing a great job. Senator Gillibrand here from New York is doing a great job organizing the Democrats in favor of the bill and doing all that education that we just discussed. So I think it's really thinking about, you know, what are your interests and what are the representatives going to do for your interests as people who love and believe in the crypto industry.
I would also say, just building off of what you said about supporting pro-crypto candidates, it tends to be one of those issues that where you stand on crypto is also indicative of where you might stand on other issues that are important, whether that's free speech, you know, individual liberties. The folks that are pro-crypto, you know, just given kind of blockchain's, you know, promise as a technology, also tend to be in favor or more in favor of those other issues that are near and dear to people's hearts. So yeah, I would echo that you know, crypto is not just, you know, a political issue in the, you know, technological sense, but it's also an issue that I think indicates how some people approach different issues or other technologies that, you know, might pose, you know, uncertainty about the future. But if folks are forward-thinking and progressive in the truest sense about wanting to advance technology and all the attendant benefits that come with it, I find that those go hand in hand.
I completely agree. We don't want some loony bin senators or whoever who's going to implement the thought police through their own agency. That's not something we want.
Correct.
That's not something I want. But in any case, vote your interests and support people in the Congress and the Senate who support crypto. That's what you should do. That's my strong advice. Last kind of question here. What do you think will happen next in DC in relation to our industry?
Well, we've talked about it a number of times, but the top priority for me, priorities 1, 2, and 3 right now, is getting this market structure legislation passed. As I mentioned, I think we're close to doing it. There will definitely be a vote in the Senate this year, and then hopefully over to the president's desk as soon as possible thereafter. But again, it's the beginning of the implementation part of it that needs to happen. There will be additional tax guidance coming out of the IRS over the coming weeks and months that is going to update and reflect the unique nature of crypto and the tax treatment there. And again, all of it is filtered through the lens of what are we doing to ensure that this technology, this innovation is occurring here at home in America. So we're doing everything that we can to drive that forward. But the future's bright. There will continue to be activity, announced out of the White House, the SEC, the CFTC, the OCC, all the 3-letter and 4-letter agencies out there that are going to reflect President Trump's position as being the most pro-crypto president in history. And I think that's only going to continue over the next few years.
I absolutely believe it. So thank you very much once again for all your and President Trump's and the administration's hard work. Thank you for sharing your views here with us at the conference. As always, it's been a very thoughtful and interesting conversation, Patrick. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sergey. Thank you.